Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this admissions event for the Hill School. We're just going to give a minute or two here for some people to join the room, and then we'll introduce our group of our panel today. I am Zack Lehman. I'm the headmaster here at the Hill School, coming to you somewhat live from the Hill School dining room. We'll talk about that later. An iconic spot on our campus in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. We have a terrific crowd here tonight. We have over 275 people registered for the event tonight, and I assume we'll see a pretty big crowd from all over the world. This is our last admissions event online before the application deadline, February 1st, and we'll talk about that as well as and other next steps. Tonight is meant to be completely interactive. We're going to spend most of our time taking your questions. And if you have a question, there are two ways to ask them today. You can either put your question in the Q&A box, which is on the bottom right-hand side, bottom right of your lower right of your screen. There's a Q&A icon there, and you can click on that and type it. We will either answer your question back to you in writing, or we'll read it out loud and ask one of our panelists to take that question. Or if you're feeling brave, and this is always the fun part of our live webcasts, you can raise your hand and we can turn on your volume, and even if you'd like, share your video. So again, my name is Mr. Lehman, Zack Lehman. I'm the headmaster here at the Hill School. I've been at the Hill now for 9 years. I have two sons who graduated from the Hill in the class of 2016 and class of 2018. And I'm proud to be joined by a number of my colleagues and several of our students. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and I'm going to start first with Ms. Shipper, Rebecca Shipper, who is both an alumna and a member of our faculty.
Hello, everyone. I am Becca Shipper and Hill class of 2014. I am in my second year of teaching math at Hill. I teach classes in our integrated curriculum. And this year I'm also teaching a course during our H term, which started last week. In addition to academics, I am a dorm parent for upper school girls in Upper School East 3 with my friend Chelsea, who's also on the call. And I coach softball.
Thank you, Ms. Shipper. I'll now go, since you mentioned Chelsea, we'll go right to the middle of my screen. I don't know where she is on your screen, but Chelsea Mills.
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm a fifth former at Hill, and I've been boarding since my freshman year, but I'm originally from Maryland. On campus, I serve as a head of tour. I'm also a member of the Student Philanthropy Council, and I'm also a Classics Fellow.
And Chelsea, you said you were a fifth former. Can you just remind everyone in the non-Hill world what that means?
Oh, that's a junior, like 11th grade.
Awesome. All right, we're going to play tic-tac-toe. I'm going to go to the top right corner to Mr. Baum.
Thank you. I'm definitely curious about how Zoom decides who goes where on what screen, but I guess I'm in the top right corner of yours. So my name's Ari Baum. I'm the Dean of Students at this school. I also teach economics, and I coach girls ice hockey, and I'm in my apartment in Upper School West, which is a dorm where junior and senior boys live. It's my 9th year, so I started the same year as Zach, and I have grown up here under his tutelage. Thank you. And I really appreciate all of you coming on tonight. I've been on a couple of these webinars, and you know, I think I wound up at this school 9 years ago, not knowing exactly what I was getting into, but I did know at the time, even before I ever stepped foot on campus, that there is something about Hill. It has like an it, and I can't really expand extremely well beyond that. But I think that it is maybe what's gotten you all to this point, and we appreciate your interest, and hopefully we're able to expand a little bit on it on the call tonight. So thanks again for coming.
Well, we're going to try to get to the bottom of it tonight a little bit more. And with that, I'll ask Andrew Kyrieleison to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Andrew Kyrieleison. I'm a sixth former from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I've been attending Hill for 4 years, but this is my first year boarding. I am serving as the co-president to the Student Government Association. I'm also a member of the varsity football and lacrosse team, and I enjoy humanities and economics here at Hill.
Thank you, Andrew. And then over to Bella.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bella Basil. I am a 4-year student here at Hill. I was a 3-year day student, and this is my first year boarding. I'm from Douglasville, PA. Here at Hill, I'm a prefect over in Dell. I am the vice president of our honor council. I'm the president of our Guts Club and our Minithon Club. I enjoy, like Andrew said, humanities and a lot of the language courses that we offer at Hill. I'm in Arabic and French, so I really enjoy those. And my dad actually went to Hill, so that's kind of how I initially became acquainted with the school. But from the moment I kind of stepped on campus, it's that it factor like we've been talking about, and I've loved it ever since.
So Bella, you used a few sort of Hill words in your introduction there. Can you tell everyone what a prefect is and what guts is?
Sorry, yeah, I'm a prefect is kind of essentially like an RA, but in a high school form.
Either, Bella. What is an RA?
An RA is like a residential, I don't know the exact abbreviation for it, but essentially what we do as prefects is you live in the dorms with forms that they can be younger than you, they can be in the same and form as grade, but you can be in the same grade as that. You live in the dorms and you kind of serve to enforce the rules of the school and our boarding rules. But you also are there for them in terms of any problems that they might encounter. So I was a day student prefect, and now I'm a boarding prefect for sophomore girls in Dell. It's really been an amazing experience doing that because you just really get to help serve the community in a different way.
And guts, you mentioned guts as well.
Yeah, sorry, guts is girls understanding their strengths. So we really just, we tried to promote a community of inclusivity and equality throughout and the school. And we really just do a lot of different activities and events with other clubs that we have at school. And yeah, we do a lot. I'm happy to touch on it with more time later.
I'm going to assign Andrew to be our decoder ring throughout this webcast. So anytime, Andrew, that someone on the webcast says a word that only you would know, or a phrase only you would know if you were a Hill student, you have to raise your hand, interrupt, and translate.
Sounds like a plan. I can do that.
All right, good. And last, but certainly not least, Ms. Hennis, Maggie Hennis from our admissions office, who's going to share her background a little bit, but also then just talk briefly about some of the remaining steps in the admission process before we get to our questions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your night to join us and to be with us. This is a really wonderful opportunity for all these families that are tuning in to really get a good glimpse of Hill in a different way. It's very raw and it's very real, and I think you have a wonderful opportunity to ask our students and our faculty some questions that maybe you didn't ask in the interview or you weren't able to ask on tour, and things like that. This is my 8th year at the Hill School. I've had a really amazing opportunity I was actually a dorm parent or a dorm affiliate with Becca when she was a student at Hill, and I was able to coach hockey with Mr. Baum. And so I've had a really amazing opportunity to be involved with the Hill community. I lived at the school for 4 years, and recently, the last 4 years I've spent off campus traveling around the world for the Hill School, trying to geographically diversify our applicant pool. So there's probably a lot of you on here that I know, that I've met, that I've interviewed. Again, thanks again for joining us. In terms of the application, I know that Mr. Lehman has already said that we have a February 1st deadline for our application. So you have about a half a month left if you have not applied, if you have not submitted that application to get that in. In the meantime, we're still conducting interviews. We have a limited number of interviews left between now and February 1st in terms of kind of completing that and wrapping up the process. We're still also offering campus tours. There's some restrictions and some guidelines that go along with that at Hill, and that includes a negative COVID test. But I think it's, again, for some families that are able to see campus or want to see campus, it's a really wonderful opportunity to see kind of the physical plant and what makes Hill so unique. There's one SSAT left. So I know that we are technically a test optional school in terms of families having accessibility issues, but there's still availability within the February test. So please, if you're able to take that test and sign up, please do that as soon as possible. And one final thing, in order to get your acceptance or your decision letter, you will need a Hill portal account. And so that's on March 10th, the big day. Everyone can log in using their Hill portal. It's a username and password. And that's where our decisions will all be on March 10th.
And Maggie, you said that students can still sign up for the February test. And I'm not sure if there's any spots left in the January test. But there was one question already in the chat room, in the question and answer. If they take the February test, we can still include that in our consideration.
Yes. So because there's a less number of students that take that February test, we tend to get the results back a lot faster than some of the other tests in terms of being processed. And so you can absolutely still submit that as long as we have your application in by February 1st. You're able to kind of finish up the application process.
Terrific. And we're also, even though we're test optional this year, we are also considering other tests other than SSATs. You want to just touch on that briefly?
Yeah, sorry. So if you're applying as an 11th grader as a PG, we actually will need, or an 11th grader that has a PSAT or an SAT or an ACT. Obviously, as an 11th grader, you can still submit the SSAT. We're also taking state testing, the ISEE. Basically, if you have any form of testing, we'd love to see it because it will only help with the process. In terms of our international applicants, if you're not in an American school or an international school with 3 or more classes speaking English or teaching in English, we will need a TOEFL score as well.
And just, I know we've just spent a little bit of time talking about testing. It's one of many components of our application process. And again, this year it's optional because of COVID. So just one more thing before we get to our questions, and they're starting to come through the Q&A. And again, a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, you can either use the Q&A box or raise your hand. You can do either of those right now while I'm talking. I just wanted to give everyone a very quick overview of how this year has gone at the Hill School during during the pandemic. And I know many of you have been on our previous calls, so I'll be fairly brief. We have had in-person classes since August 24th. We had 13 weeks of in-person classes for what we called our autumn session, which was the fall and winter term, 8-week terms each. And we had 3 weeks of online classes between Thanksgiving and Christmas. During those 13 weeks of in-person classes, we had almost 90% of our students were in person. Of course, a number of our students, primarily our international students and some other students with travel restrictions or health issues, didn't come to campus or came intermittently to campus during the fall. But it was a pretty amazing experience considering some of the limitations that were out there. We were able to create a bit of a bubble and develop a sense of normalcy on our campus. We, of course, were wearing masks and doing physical distancing, but we were in the classroom with our teachers. We were doing activities, we were doing sports. We did a limited amount of interscholastic sports and some of our non-contact sports, and we had a lot of community events. Right now, after we completed the autumn session and the 3 weeks of online classes, we have started something called the H-term. And the H-term is a remote program for 6 weeks, and students can either choose a class that's offered by the Hill, sort of fun and unique classes, and maybe our students will talk a little bit about what their H-term class is right now, or our students can apply to do an independent project or an internship or some sort of community service remotely on their own. And it's about half and half. About half of our students chose independent projects and half are in our classes. And it's a voluntary program, but over 92% of our students chose the H-term. And we structured that so that the bulk of our students would be at home, away from campus, not in a community setting during what we anticipated would be the height of COVID positive rates, which we were right. Not that that's a good thing, but we at least were able to keep our students safe. And then At the same time, starting this Friday, oh my gosh, it's already this Friday, we are starting our low residency program for approximately 100 of our winter athletes, varsity athletes. We have our boys and girls hockey teams coming back, our squash teams, our basketball teams, and our wrestling team are all coming back for a 4 to 6 week program, and it's up to 6 weeks if we end up doing interscholastic competition, which remains to be seen. We're trying to keep our students very safe. And we've created a real bubble for these students. So all of the students, including students who are normally day students, will be living on campus in team-based dorms. So it's sort of like a camp for these sports. They're still participating in the H term remotely while they're on campus, but giving a chance to pursue their passions in athletics. And then we'll all come back to campus and begin our spring term for 14 weeks on March 1st. We're working on all the details of that, and we hope that things will be healthier at that point. Our wellness team has already started to get vaccinations, and our faculty we hope soon will begin to get their vaccinations. And so things will be even hopefully more normal in the spring. During that entire period of time while our students were on campus, we had 1 student COVID case and 1 faculty COVID case. So remarkable, especially since we were testing at least once a week for our entire community. We did over 4,500 tests and had only 2 positives. So a real testament to our faculty and staff and our wellness team and our plan. And so we hope that COVID is very much a thing of the past next year, but we have been able to demonstrate our ability to provide a robust in-person experience even in this very difficult pandemic. So with that, we're ready for questions, and they've started piling up here, so that's always good. And again, if you want to raise your hand, we always need that first brave person to raise their hand and ask the question, and then I will distribute the questions. But we've got a handful of typed in questions, so I'll read them. All right, first, we are going to, and I apologize if I mispronounced this, Tyrese Morris. Tyrese wants to know, is it possible to recommend that a sport be added to the Hill curriculum? I'm going to expand that question slightly, and I'm going to turn it over to Bella, and I'll add, a sport, an independent project, or a club.
Yeah, Hill really gives you the freedom to elaborate on really your interests and what you want to do. I know a really good example of, it's not a sport, but my roommate, Lauren Fudala, she is a big dancer. And before she came to Hill didn't have a dance program, but she really worked with a lot of people and the current dance instructor. And now she leads a lot of those dance programs, and Hill accommodated that. And not just for her, but they created this whole amazing dance program that's fairly new, but they gave her, she was able to voice her opinion and really work through with a lot of teachers and faculty and Mr. Eilberg, our athletics coordinator. But in terms of clubs and independent projects, Hill completely gives you whatever you want, whatever your interests are, whatever you want to do, you really have the freedom to explore it. So it's really just limited by your own imagination, I would say.
Thanks, Bella. And I will add, over the last few years, we have added sports when there has been student demand. Actually, the largest, or at least the most popular sport at Hill right now is crew. And just about that just became a varsity sport 3 years ago. And I was talking to a group of students. 5 years ago, we had 10 students in the program, and now we have about 75. We've also are starting varsity fencing this year after several years of being a club sport by student demand. And we've had some other similar kinds of clubs like dance that you mentioned, which is now an afternoon activity, as well as being a class. So thanks for the question and terrific answer, Bella. All right, we have our first hand up. You guys ready for this? This is always fun. Frederick Johnson, we're gonna allow you to talk, Frederick. Hold on. Frederick, are you there? You've got to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Is this
all right?
Or
I figured somebody had to break the ice, so I'd volunteer.
Okay. Frederick, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Irvington, Virginia.
Okay, we've got Virginia covered. Okay, go.
Question is primarily directed at Maggie. If you could give us a little flavor, since everything is so weird this year with the COVID, What are you seeing as far as applicants? Are you seeing like a bigger pool of people closer to the school? Are you seeing more international? Can you give me a little feedback on that, please?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And our admission numbers are definitely up this year in terms of the amount of applications, the amount of interviews that we're doing. I'd say a lot of families are interested in having their students be at school in person in an environment where it's fairly controlled. And I think that, like what Zach was saying before, we were one of the first schools to have a plan as to how we were going to approach COVID and opening up our school within COVID times. And so we've actually seen a lot of applicants from all over the US. I'd say our numbers are pretty steady in terms of kind of families within a 2-hour radius and also families within further than a 2 to 4 hour radius as well. And so it's exciting for us. The best part about this is that we can be super intentional in terms of how we create our applicant pool, or how we are able to create our community through our applicant pool. And so it's exciting overall. And I know that everyone in our office is really anticipating the February 1st deadline, because we're really ready to kind of start reading files.
Great.
I'll just add that I was just looking at our admissions report to date, and our applications are up quite significantly at about 22% this year. But what I think is most interesting is that even though the split between international and domestic applications is about the same, we're seeing a much greater diversity in the countries and even the sort of regions in the United States that are applying. And I think that's because we're doing so many more online interviews, and it's easier for people to access the admissions process. So that's exciting for our future, because it could mean that we're going to see an even more geographically diverse community. And this year I think we're at approximately 32 states and 30 countries already. So that could be really neat for the school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick. Okay, people, you broke the ice for us, Frederick. So we're going to Lisa Limoges. She looks like a familiar name to me. I'm going to allow Lisa to talk. Lisa, are you there?
Hi. This isn't Lisa, but this is Logan Limoges.
Hi, Logan. Logan, is Lisa your mother?
Yes.
All right, we're keeping track of how many people are using their mom's computers tonight.
Hi. And I also have Emily right next to me.
I was going to say, that looks like a familiar name in our an alumna of the school. Emily.
Yeah. So my question was, how do you guys pick at the Hill who is your roommates?
Roommates. Mr. Baum, you're on for roommates.
Thanks for your question. Hey, Emily. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Coach.
So for roommates, for incoming students, they're matched with other incoming students, and of course admissions, who's gotten to know each of the incoming students in the admissions process, matches them. I think there's also like a questionnaire in addition to them getting to know them in that way. Returning students can choose their roommates as long as the desire is mutual between the two. We have a few singles on campus, but the massive majority of our students of our boarding students are in doubles. There's also times where students either don't have a preference, or they just haven't put a lot of thought into who their roommate is for a coming year. So we have some faculty who assist in that process to make sure we're putting students who are comfortable and have sort of similar lifestyles and living habits in the same space. Maggie, I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to add to that, because I know admissions really takes control of the rooming for incoming students.
No, I think you hit on everything. And I think some of the kids can kind of talk about their experiences that they've had in terms of roommates as well. The really cool thing, and I always say this for the people that are on the call that I interviewed, and I know Meredith Nee, I interviewed you today, and you asked the same question. So it's kind of neat. We go through, we send everyone a questionnaire, and that questionnaire is really specific in terms of questions. It's kind of like yes or no things, like, are you messy or are you neat? Or do you go to bed early or late? What kind of music do you listen to? Kind of, again, personality questions. But I think what really is determined by it, and if you are accepted, don't let your parents fill this out for you, because the messy or neat question, I think, is the biggest determining factor and how successful roommates are together. But yeah, and we get to know everyone through the process. And so I think, we have ideas in our head and personalities that we've kind of learned and developed. And so I think we do a good job. We're not perfect, but we're pretty good at doing it.
All right, a little speed round. Andrew, was your first year, well, you've only been at boarder for 1 year. You don't get to answer this question. Chelsea, was your first year roommate a good match, and are you still roommates with her?
Yes, actually, I was very scared because I'm an introvert, and I was worried that like my roommate wouldn't be someone I could get along with well. And I actually really ended up loving my first year roommate. We're still roommates to this day, which is really nice.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're the only multi-year boarder on the call, so I can't even ask that for Bella. How about you, Becca? Ms. Shipper, you had a roommate at Hill once. Was it a good match?
I did. My first year roommate was a student from Bulgaria. She was a 1-year student through an exchange program, so I didn't keep her. We didn't get to stay together for the final year. It was an interesting match. I think we ended up having a lot of really great conversations about kind of like culture, and we were both coming in as new fifth formers. So that was a challenge that we went through together. I don't know if we would have been particularly great friends outside of if we hadn't been roommates, but I think it was really special to have that time together to kind of spend time with someone who maybe we wouldn't have ever crossed paths with.
So our threshold is always compatibility, and then our aspiration is best friends. And if you're somewhere in the middle there, it's pretty good. We've had some great stories of 4-year roommates who were just compatible, but they became best friends as a result of it. All right, thanks for your question, Logan.
Thank you.
All right, bye, Emily.
Bye.
All right, we're going back to a written question. Okay, this is a good one. For our students on the panel, and we'll start with you, Andrew. What is the one thing you wish you knew before you came to Hill? Advice for a third former.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things I wish I knew, and this might sound like a cliche, but time really does go by fast, especially at Hill. And I wish that I would have gotten more involved, especially my third form year. I was a little intimidated at first, and there were certain opportunities that I probably passed up on. And I've since definitely gotten involved in the community as much as possible, but jump into it completely, your third form year, your fourth form year, whatever, and take advantage of the opportunities. Don't be timid. To try something new. So that would be the one piece of advice that I give somebody.
Bella, how about you?
I completely agree with Andrew. I was kind of the same way. And when a faculty member advises you to look into an activity, I would say take them up on that, because I found a passion through running from Mr. McMains, who's a history teacher here, and I never would have thought I would have been a runner, but he just thought I would really enjoy it, and I did. And I really limited myself until junior year doing cross country. And I wish I would have been more receptive to that. So.
And Chelsea, how about you? Advice for your former third form self?
I definitely agree that you should try to do something new at Hill. I would say that Latin and Greek are two classes that I would never imagine myself taking. I originally thought like they were so boring and useless, but my teachers, Dr. Lake and Mr. Turner, really made me passionate for it.
A good plug for our classics program. One of the top classics programs in the country. Thanks for that plug, Chelsea. All right, we're going back to the phones. Kim Contes, I may be pronouncing that wrong. Kim, are you there?
Yes, I am. It's actually Constantine Contes.
Hello, Constantine Contes. And where are you calling from, Constantine?
Devon, Pennsylvania.
Devon, Pennsylvania, not too far away. What's your question today?
So I'm close to submitting my application, and my teacher has not yet submitted her recommendation. Will Hill get my recommendation after I submit it?
Nope, you're out of luck. Your teacher's a slacker, so we're not gonna let you in. Just kidding, Constantine. Of course, eventually we'll get that letter of recommendation, and you should just remind your teacher about that. And we'll if we don't see that in time for the deadline, we'll send you a reminder.
Okay, thank you.
And as long as it's a good recommendation, you might not want to encourage him to write it if it's not, Constantine.
Okay.
Just joking. All right, thanks for. You have any other questions while we've got you, Constantine?
No, I'm okay. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're good. All right. Thanks, Constantine. All right, we've got Pennsylvania and Virginia covered. Limoges was they're Pennsylvania, aren't they, Mr. Baum?
Virginia, I believe.
Virginia, okay. So we've got 2 from Virginia, 1 from Pennsylvania, always fun. All right, going to the phone again, Saba Reina, I may be pronouncing that wrong, but Saba, are you there?
Hi, I am here. Oh,
Where are you calling from, Saba?
hi, I am here. And my name's Sabah, S-A-B-A-H.
Saba, where are you calling from?
New York City.
New York City, awesome.
What's my question is, what is your favorite thing about how the Hill, like the teaching, the classes at Hill? Sorry.
All right, we're gonna do that in a speed round format, limited to 5 words or less. Favorite part about the teaching and classroom experience? Miss Shipper, you go first. 5 words.
The 5 words really makes it complicated. I might do more than 5 words, just cut me off. But I think that one of my favorite parts is the students. I have found really great relationships through the classroom, through the dorm, through afternoon activities, and just the way that we get to know each other in so many different facets. It makes learning all that much better.
Multifaceted student connections. That would have been 4 words, or 3 and a hyphen. Okay, Bella.
Extremely close and interactive.
Awesome. Mr. Baum. You're muted.
People grow up here.
Okay. Andrew.
Teaching happens outside the classroom. I think that's 5.
Awesome. And Chelsea, you have the last word.
Small class sizes.
Small class sizes. All right. Awesome answers. And way to follow the instructions too. Good job. Thank you, Sabah. Thanks for calling in.
Of course, thank you.
Good luck. All right, we're going to go back to the written questions. This is one for Ms. Hennis. What is the process for transfer students? And by that, I assume they mean they're already in high school. Is there any difference for applying to transfer from one high school to another?
No, I think the biggest thing is obviously going through the application process. You can apply to Hill basically in the 10th grade. The biggest difference in terms of transfer students is the number of students that we accept in each grade. So we're obviously looking for the biggest amount of students that we will be accepting in the 9th grade. The 10th grade, it gets a little bit smaller. We're looking for about 30 students total. And then the 11th grade, we're looking for about 15 to 17 students. In terms of postgraduates, we're also looking for about 17 to 20 postgraduate students. And so our 9th grade is about 100. But in terms of the process, nothing's different. I think the biggest thing to ask your interviewer or to ask, some of the students is, what opportunities are available for you academically based on the curriculum that you've already experienced in your few years of high school.
Andrew, we need a decoder ring. Postgraduate.
Sorry, postgraduate's anybody who's already graduated from high school but might be returning for 1 extra year, a 5th year at Hill, for whether that's athletics or academics.
They have to do academics even if they come for athletics though, right, Andrew?
Yes, athletics is, or academics is necessary.
Comes first, in fact.
Comes first, yes.
And what is the nickname for a postgraduate?
Like a PG.
Good job. Well done. All right, another written question. Again for Maggie. I noticed you just said you have a limited number of interviews left. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so we're really only doing interviews until our February 1st deadline. And so we have some families that have scheduled months in advance in terms of filling up our slots. We have, there's 7 people in our office and we each do a particular number of interviews a day. And so there's slots available. We do interviews at night. We're also doing interviews kind of all day long. And so, and we also interview on the weekend. And like I said before, we're doing on-campus tours and interviews as well.
Awesome. Okay, we have 2 more written questions and we'll go back to the audio here. From Douglas, what are some of the advantages of a dress code? By the way, I'm the only one in, well, I guess Ms. Shipper and I are both in dress code. And how does it work? We'll go to the students for this one. Chelsea, let's hear about dress code. How does it work? What are the advantages?
I actually really like our dress code here. It's like a button-down shirt, and then for girls, it's like a skirt or pants, and then a blazer. I actually really like the structure of it because it's like everyone looks the same for the most part, but there's still an opportunity to like express your personality and like your sense of fashion. So yeah, I really like it.
Andrew, what is the best part of the winter dress code? What is everyone in the winter?
In the winter, oh, turtlenecks. They're a big deal at Hill. You can wear a turtleneck in place of a button up and a tie. And so those are pretty famous here. You'll see a lot of kids wearing turtlenecks in the winter.
Bella, what is something you can wear instead of a blazer?
Your Hill varsity or theater H sweater. So we have our athletic ones and also our art ones. That it's been a tradition at Hill for a while. So you can wear a collared shirt underneath the sweater, and that counts as the blazer.
So it's either your what we call a major H varsity sweater, which you get for being a varsity athlete, or a what we consider a varsity theater student. Those were new about 3 years ago. Those are blue and white. The H is white, and the major H, it's the reverse. All right, good question, Doug, or Douglas. Okay, this is a good one. Someone is asking about the H term. So I don't really know what the three of you are doing for the H term. So I would love to hear from the students about their choices this term, H term sections, and how they're keeping in touch with faculty to support their learning experiences. Anybody want to jump in on their H term? Okay, Andrew, go ahead. And then we'll hear from everybody.
Yeah, so I'm doing a NPR podcast. And so our group, there's about 8 of us, need to come together. We meet 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, and we're coming up with a short podcast to submit for a national competition, but we're also doing other media arts that we won't necessarily submit, but we're working on. And it's been a really cool experience. Wanted to learn how that process works, but to also talk to our classmates. The theme that we're doing is food and how it has the capacity to bring people together. We have people from all over the country in our podcast, so it quite literally does bring us together, and it's been definitely a very cool experience.
And what's your role on the podcast? Are you the on-air talent, Andrew?
I am one of the featured hosts who will be eating on air, yes.
Perfect. Okay, and Chelsea, how about you? How's your H term going?
Well, at first I was trying to find an internship with the NIH. It was supposed to be like focused on psychology, mental health, and neuroscience, and it didn't work out actually, so I'm still looking for one. So for now, I'm just studying for the SAT and babysitting.
And Chelsea, just talk about how you still have assignments in your ongoing classes and how you're staying in touch with your classmates.
Right. So for most of my classes, it's like one assignment per week. So maybe like on Sunday, I'll have a weekly assignment for the class. And then for my classmates, I still talk to my friends like on FaceTime.
Awesome. We don't need a decoder ring for FaceTime, do we, Andrew? We know what that is.
No, I think that's pretty universal.
Okay. How about you, Bella? I know you're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, so I interned over the summer at the Foreign Policy Research Institute in Philadelphia. So that's what I'm doing. I'm continuing with the director of the Eurasian policy person. So I worked with her over the summer, and she's really great. And basically what I do is I work as a research analyst, and I go through a lot of articles and reports, and I write summaries for my boss to use in her meetings. And it's been a really amazing experience that I had over the summer, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to continue over this winter break too.
Awesome. Ms. Shipper, you mentioned that you're teaching an H-term class. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'm teaching a class about big data ethics and how technology and data science has kind of impacted and infiltrated our society, and just the positives, the negatives. It's been a really interesting class. We've touched a little bit on philosophy, some public policy, and we've done a little bit of coding in the R programming software as well.
How many students are in your H-term class?
There are 9.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're going back to the phones. Naeem Johnson, and I may be pronouncing that wrong. Naeem, are you there?
No, that's right.
Okay. How are you, Naeem?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Great. Where are you calling from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. We got Atlanta now. We got Georgia.
My question is,
It's a big month down there in Georgia.
we did?
Yeah, you had a big month.
Oh yeah, the voting. Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. Anyway, Naeem, what's your question tonight?
My question is like, what can the students do on the weekends besides like homework? And then I have one more question, but.
All right. Andrew, take the weekend question.
Yeah, our student life office does a great job of offering ways for students to get off campus if they choose. Typically, during a normal year, we'll have the opportunity to go on off-campus trips. That might be a trip to Philadelphia, New York. Sometimes they take them to like a Phillies game or something like that. They've gone to Broadway. They really do a whole spectrum of different things that you can go off campus, but on campus there's also a lot of cool opportunities on the weekend, whether that's sporting events. School spirit's definitely something we take pride in here, and so going to watch other games is something that we'll do, and hanging out in the student center, little things like that. But we keep it light on the weekends. There's certainly studying that happens, but a lot of kids do like to relax and hang out with each other.
Awesome. Naeem, you had a second question.
Yes. My second question is like, what type of field trips, like besides like if you guys do them besides the United States?
Sure, I'll take that question. We have in regular times, we aren't doing any of them this year, and we canceled some of our spring programs last year. But we have, first of all, our students are eligible for school year abroad, which is a full year or half year program in a number of different foreign countries. So that's like an exchange program. We also have a few other similar programs like the Island School, which is in the Bahamas, which is studying marine biology. That's pretty cool too. And then we have a number of trips that we take each year, usually our Humanities and Classics trip, which goes to Italy. Last year we were scheduled to take a trip to South Africa with our vocal music groups. And we take a number of trips periodically. We'll take a trip to China for our Chinese language program, or to a Spanish speaking country for our Spanish, or obviously French if we're going for French. And so they sort of rotate around. And then we have a number of domestic trips as well, primarily for athletic teams, but we also do some ski trips and things like that. So, and we do a lot of local field trips for classes to Philadelphia and surrounding areas.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Naeem. Thanks for calling in from Georgia. All right, here we go. Maggie, what is your best advice for kids as they are wrapping up their applications? Are there any insider tips that you can share?
That's a really good question. I think that continuing to attend obviously virtual panels, but continue to stay in touch with us through the admissions office. There's this time after, like between when applications are submitted and March 10th, there's kind of a dead period in terms of communication because we're busy reading files. But I would say to continue to stay in touch with coaches, to continue to stay in touch with the admissions office. If anything extraordinary or exciting has happened in your life, send us an email and kind of give us an update. I think that that's really great. And it always is nice to hear from families, especially to kind of lighten the mood in terms of the emails that we're getting, and to hear some good things about what's going on in your lives. But you know, and my second thing is kind of take a deep breath. I mean, this process has been going on for some people for months, if not years. And so at this point, like, you've done everything you can to submit a good application to our school, and you should be really excited about that and proud about that. And you know, it's out of your hands at that point.
All right, going to the phones. Wendy Wong. Here we go. Wendy, are you there? Hold on. Wendy, go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
We can. Where are you from, Wendy?
Hi, I'm from Shanghai, China.
Ah, welcome.
So it's my morning time. And thanks so much for this, because I think I'm the first one to raise question from outside the US. And I think Hill really done a great job to handle the unique situation in COVID. I'd like to know more. How does Hill support, or how did you support international students in the long weekends or short holidays? during this very unique situation when they just can't come back home.
Okay, I'm going to give that question to Mr. Baum, but before I do that, Wendy, can you tell me where you get your, I'm a big fan of Shanghai and Xiaolongbao. Soup dumplings, they're my absolute favorite. Which restaurant do you go to for Xiaolongbao in Shanghai?
Okay. Actually, I'm working in the. Do you know the building IFC in the financial district here?
Yeah.
And so we got lots of brilliant Shanghai food, and which is some of them are very much tailor-made for Western people. So if you got the time here, I can definitely show you the best place
Next
here.
time, I usually make at least one trip to Shanghai just for the dumplings each year, but not this year. Mr. Baum, how did we support our international students, especially long weekends and vacations, that sort of thing?
I really appreciate that question because it's obviously topical, but I think it's universal to how the Hill School works. I think especially if you're still getting to know boarding schools, you might think of it as just like a small college. Of course, there's similarities with college, but it's quite different. Most specifically that I think the school's very supportive in a customized way to circumstances and students. The last year has certainly been the most unusual circumstances that I've ever experienced, and I'm sure all of us are in the same boat. So about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, when COVID was really becoming prevalent in China, I held a meeting with all of our students who lived in China and maybe a couple of other countries in Asia, and told them that they can stay at the Hill School during what is usually our spring break in March. Normally, we support our students during our breaks to either go all the way home, because our breaks are long enough where students can go even very far away. March breaks usually 2 to 3 weeks long. But plenty of international students do choose to stay more local, either with Hill families or sort of friends of the Hill School that we trust to help take care of kids during breaks. We also offer some of the trips that Mr. Lehman was describing before. But going back to your specific question, during the pandemic, we've basically been open since it's begun, which is unusual. Usually in a regular year, campus closes during breaks and is not open to students being here. We help them find places to go. But given the abnormality and the extraordinary inconveniences, as well as the despair it's caused, our school has been extremely flexible and accommodating. And I think even though it's strenuous, of course, it's a school, that's probably the part we take most pride in, whether you're a straight A student, whether you live right down the road or in China or any other country. I think the school does whatever it can to support students, no matter what the circumstances are. And I think we've proven this year that we'll be as flexible as we need to be and not steadfast to holding to some policy that's probably not appropriate during such an extraordinary time.
And I'll just mention,
Thanks so much.
Yeah, Wendy, I'll just mention two things also. We're one of the only schools that I'm aware of that has a full-time international student coordinator and liaison, Ms. Cho. She's native Chinese and lives on our campus and takes great care of our international students and communicates with parents. She is a WeChat aficionado, so that's very unusual as far as I'm aware. And we also are one of the first schools to establish a host family program. And so every international family that wants a host family can have one. And this year we required host families in the event you had to leave campus to be quarantined or if you were ill. And so we have a lot of families that step up for that. I think that Mr. Andrew Kirilason's family has been a host family before, and faculty members have taken students on as host families. So, we expect to be back to normal next year and do expect that our students, all of our students, go somewhere during those vacations. But to Mr. Baum's point, we've been very accommodating and supportive of all of our students, even some of our domestic students that just live, across the country or a flight away. So thanks for your question. And I will take you up on your offer for some good Xiaolongbao when I come.
Yeah, right. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, next question written here. Are there any opportunities to do community service off campus Andrew, as a member of our Hobart Run and Pottstown Cares organization, you want to share a little bit on community service?
Yeah, so we have a really cool student-led outreach program called Hobart's Run that's supervised by a couple faculty members. And what we do is we help out. There's a local boys and girls club called the Ricketts Center. So we'll go there. We wanted to go there and help tutor this year. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, that wasn't able to happen, but we fully intend on that happening down the road. But we also we'll help clean up Edgewood Cemetery, or we'll clean up just with Pottstown on the streets here as well. We have a couple focuses. We'll work on different projects throughout the year, whether that's a fundraiser. We had a really cool backpack project this year where we collected backpacks from students and filled that with certain school supplies for locals in Pottstown. But there are definitely ways to get engaged with the community, and it starts with that. We actually created a branch of the Hobart's Run Committee called Hobart's Runners. So it's not as committed, but you're welcome. We'll notify you if you do have an interest in service. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Chelsea, a question here was, can you share the experience of transitioning into a secondary boarding school from your previous school?
Oh, okay. So I previously went to a public high school for 9th grade, and then I repeated my 9th grade year at Hill here. I think the transition is it's scary at first because you're like going into a whole new high school environment. But I think Hill makes it very easy for you to like get accommodated to the academic schedule and the students.
Awesome. I have a question partially for Ms. Shipper and partially for Bella. Ms. Shipper, how much homework is there each night? And Bella, do you feel students are stressed with the homework load at Hill?
This is a funny question. I taught Bella last year, so we'll see how our answers line up. But so we are expected as faculty members to give no more than about 30 minutes of homework, give or take, each night. So that could total up to, if you take 7 classes, that would be a lot. But during this time, we are doing block scheduling. So each student has a maximum of 4 classes kind of 3 classes per day. If we were doing our four cycle rotation of classes for the block term this year, it would be 4 spread out and rotated between. But give or take, it would be about 2 hours a night. That's the allotted amount for study hall. And I think for the most part, we try to be really proactive and listen to students and how kind of how they're feeling and whether what we're actually giving them is taking the amount of time that we expect.
Bella, does she tell the truth?
No, she does. Miss Shipper does. And I had her in class, and she being one of the teachers that listens very well when you do feel it's undoubtedly in high school, and I feel anywhere you go, you're going to tend to be overwhelmed sometimes with the amount of work that you have, and that's no different at Hill, but you really learn to manage your time very well because you are expected to participate in all aspects of Hill life, which is great. In terms of the classwork, there are many times during the day in our block schedule that we're using this year and in our normal schedule that we've had where you have certain breaks throughout the day, such as a free period and other things like that, where you can take time out of your regular school day to get some work done. Teachers are also really willing to listen if you do feel overwhelmed and you need, extra time on an assignment or something like that. So everybody's very understanding within the community of what's expected of you and the course load work and everything.
Andrew, decoder ring, block schedule.
Yeah, a block schedule with regard to this year or just in general, Mr. Lehman?
I think this year.
Okay, so this year, what we did was we actually had a 15-day rotation and then a 24-day rotation, if I'm not mistaken. And so for the first one, you're gonna have 3 classes, ABC, and those you'll have the same classes every day, but they'll rotate through. And after 15 days of having done that, you'll switch to the back end of your rotation. Again, if you don't take 7 classes, you'll have a free period scattered in there. And then for that 24-day cycle, you'll roll through that block schedule as well.
And let's just take a vote. Of the 3 of you, did you like the old schedule or this year's block schedule better? Vote, raise your hand if you like the old schedule better. Wow, it's pretty limited. New and block schedule. Neither. No, just kidding. All right. Well, that's you guys have just made the decision for next year. The three of you have voted. So that's, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Nathaniel, we're going to the phones. Hold on. It's not really a phone. So Nathaniel, are you there? Nathaniel, go ahead.
Hey, how are you guys?
Great. Where are you calling from?
New York City as well.
Okay.
Brooklyn. Yeah, Brooklyn, New York. I am currently applying to the Hill School as a PG student.
And we've already translated what that means, so we're good there.
And one of my issues have gone through the process, the college application process in my old high school. It was very stressful and very hard. And one of my issues is I feel like I really didn't get the help and the support needed from my faculty. And I just wanted to know, what do you guys do at the Hill School to make sure that your students go into the college application process feeling confident or not feeling like iffy or, you know, any concerns like how I did my first time?
I'm gonna take a first stab at that, and if one of the sixth formers wants to chime in on their college counseling experience. So we have a fantastic college counseling office. We have 6 full-time college counselors. So the ratio of students to counselors is pretty low. You know, about 25 to 30 students per counselor, which is probably quite different than most schools. They start working with students as early as their 4th form or 10th grade spring. Help students choose classes. And for PGs, if you get accepted, Nathaniel, you would be, they'd contact you right away in the spring. And so you'd get a head start on the application process. They'd get to know you, you'd meet with them regularly. They'd help with your application process. We have some test prep support on campus or off campus as well. And then they review your essays. They help you with just defining your list. If you're a student athlete, as many of our postgraduates are, we actually have a college counselor who works directly with college-bound NCAA athletes and understands that process very well. So there's a lot of support and very personalized. And then, of course, when you're deciding between schools, they're helpful there too. Andrew or Bella, I don't know where you are in your college processes, but you want to share anything beyond that, more of the personal feel?
Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
You can go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, typically during a normal year 2, we'll have an open door policy almost. So if they're not meeting, you can legitimately just walk up and into their office and they're happy to help you with anything. I mean, they're incredibly resourceful and they're really good with timelines as well. So they're gonna also be on you too to make sure that you're hitting those deadlines, that you're not waiting for the last moment and procrastinating in that way. But they definitely go out of their way for you. I kid you not, actually. My college counselor had told me that she was willing to drive to one of the colleges to speak to their admissions office if need be to speak on my behalf. And that's like a true story. And I know that's not just for me too. I mean, they're very, they're very encouraging for our students across the board. And I'm sure Bella can attest to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Andrew. It's they really are there for you. And while they have other students, it doesn't feel like that at all. It's a very individualized process anytime you walk through that door. And I would even say this year, the amount of times that I just quickly walked in because I had a question that couldn't wait for another day, and they would be more than happy to just let me sit down and rant about whatever it would be, or proofread one of my essays really quickly. They would have it back to me in the afternoon. So my college counselor has been great with helping me manage all of that. So.
And Nathaniel, it's still going to be a stressful process no matter what happens, but having a great partner in that process who's experienced, and especially for postgraduate students, but I think many of the folks on the call tonight are, that's part of the high school experience or the prep school experience. So we'll do our best to make it enjoyable and a learning experience as well. So thanks for calling in, Nathaniel. Good luck.
I really appreciate it.
Sure. Another phone call, Sebastian Suarez. Sebastian, go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, everybody.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Manhattan, New York City.
You're like our 3rd New Yorker, but that's cool. Go ahead.
So what are some of your favorite Hill traditions?
Oh, this is a good speed round. Everyone gets to say their favorite tradition, but no explanation, or very brief explanation. We have a lot of hands up. Ready? Miss Hennis.
Seated meals.
Seated meals in the dining hall, right behind me, actually. All right, Bella.
Elville weekend and spoon banging.
Okay, we need a decoder for that. Andrew, explain Elville and spoon banging.
So Elville is our biggest rivals from New Jersey. Every we call it Elville Week, which is the year during the fall we'll play them in sports. We'll do a bonfire and everything, and we have this tradition of spoon banging where we actually have spoons and bang them on the tables in the dining hall. It gets really loud, but it's a very cool experience and something that I know a lot of our students share.
And Elville is not actually the name of the school, right?
Lawrenceville, sorry.
All right, thank you. Andrew, you now get to say your favorite tradition, but you can't repeat anything someone's already said.
Yeah, we have a tradition of Strawberry Festival in the spring, and as Mr. Baum puts it, it's majestic. So,
okay. Strawberry Festival is like a day outside when we sign yearbooks, right before the end of school. Awesome. Chelsea.
Jumping into the Dell after graduation.
Andrew, decode Dell.
Dell is a small pond we have on campus right outside the Center for the Arts. And it's a tradition that after we graduate, we go and we jump in the Dell. And on the banks of the Dell, the 5th through 3rd formers are there to greet the graduates.
All right. Ms. Shipper, favorite tradition?
Chapel.
Darn it, that was going to be mine. Okay, I got to think of a new one. So we go to chapel twice a week, and we have student speakers who share their experiences either at Hill or beyond Hill. And it's we come together as a full community twice a week. Awesome. Mr. Baum.
I don't know if it's exactly a tradition, but my favorite trait of the Hill School that's definitely part of its tradition is people respect one another and show genuine interest in getting to know one another. I trust that probably a lot of students who apply to a new school are thinking, what if I don't make friends or I don't, get to know anybody? I really don't think that happens here because this school has that tradition or that part of its culture where people are just naturally curious about others immediately. And I think that's my favorite part.
Okay, so my favorite tradition, that's good. My favorite tradition is Convocation. Andrew, decode Convocation.
Convocation is it's like an all-school meeting we have at the beginning of the year, kind of greeting everybody in. Mr. Lehman is famous for putting together a short video that is typically very funny, lighthearted, and pertains to the times, but it's also a great way of just breaking in to the new school year on a high note.
Yes, we even did some fun videos this year. We did Convocation outdoors this year in early October. That was quite an experience. All right, we're going to take a few more questions. I wish we could get to all of them tonight. From Lindsay online. By the way, Sebastian, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Lindsay asks, what are some clubs at Hill that you can get involved with besides sports? Bella?
Kind of like I said earlier, any club that you would want to be a part of, if it doesn't exist, you can kind of create it. That's the beauty of our student life association at Hill. But examples, we have the student band, we have the psychology club, we have politic clubs, we have the Hill News, we have Girls Understanding Their Strengths, we have Mini-thon, which is you raise money for pediatric cancer. There's so many different, Andrew's Hobart's Run Club, like all of these different really great clubs that are great ways to immersing yourselves in the Hill community and just meeting others as well. So really there's anything that you could think of. There's a club or you can create one.
So Mr. Baum just hid his screen for a second. When he came back in a different spot and it changed everything. Mr. Baum, we've had a whole new thing we have to research now. Okay, I think another part of this question, Bella, was, and maybe I'll ask Chelsea this part, what else can you do in the afternoons if you don't choose a sport? So other activities, co-curricular programs.
You could do speech and debate, theater, community service, and I think afternoon arts, and I think there's also like a music program.
And dance and dial, our yearbook. And I was gonna get you. I just decoded it on my own. That's pretty good, Chelsea. You knew everything that we do in the afternoons. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go to the phones. We've got Orit. Oh wow, this is a tough name. Orit Woldemeskel. How did I do? Orit, are you there? Orit, are you there?
Yeah, my name is pronounced Orit Woldemeskel. You're correct.
Wow, I did pretty well. Where are you calling from, Orit?
Yeah, I'm calling from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia? Now, this is what I was talking about before. We've never had a student at Hill from Ethiopia. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get in, Orit.
Okay, so a question I want to ask would be, so at the Hill School, obviously one of the reasons why I want to apply would be to share my culture. So my question would be, how does Hill School help international?
You sort of went in and out there, but I think was your question, how does Hill help international students do something?
Integrate their cultures, integrate their respective cultures.
Integrate their respective cultures.
I'm sorry, my network is a bit laggy.
That's okay. Mr. Baum, do you want to talk about how we work to integrate different cultures, international, different faiths as well?
Well, I can start generally in saying that as a school with students from so many different geographic places, we just have students who come from about 500 backgrounds for a school of about that many students. So I think the best way that we integrate all of that variety is just by having school. By having roommates who come from different backgrounds, by the people who are sitting around you in your class or on your dorm hall who come from different backgrounds, and having consistent opportunities every hour of the day to get to know people from those different backgrounds in a genuine way. And I think that sort of speaks to just how the school is small, not just that it is, it's that there's a feel, again, as I said in an earlier question, that students and faculty here just naturally are interested to know who you are. That said, there are more formal ways in which the school embraces the different backgrounds of our students, and that ranges rather dramatically, but I think it's probably most prominently integrated in student activities that Andrew was speaking to a bit earlier. A lot of the student activities, and I would say increasingly in my time here, they have taken on a vibe of some sort of tradition or cultural norm of a student or a group of students from a different place. And that ranges dramatically, and I think that's captured increasingly well on weekends. I would say food also is the most easy way to put it. I think people all like to eat, and I think very, very often students get to know each other just through learning what they like to eat or what they eat back home.
And Orit, I would just add, as I mentioned before, we do have a formal international student program, and we celebrate a number of different international holidays, and that usually comes with food, like Mr. Baum suggested. And then we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion program and a new dean of spiritual life and equity. And we're going to have actually a building for spiritual life and equity next year. And so there'll be all sorts of activities there run by our chaplain and Dean Adams. So lots of ways, but I would agree with Mr. Baum that just being at Hill, it's such a great melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds. I think you'd really enjoy that. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for the opportunity.
What time is it in Ethiopia?
So it's 3 hours past midnight. So actually I had to go to sleep early, then put an alarm, then wake up, then I guess go back to sleep later. I felt like I had to make at least one appearance.
Ms. Hennis is tracking that on your application, or what grade are you applying for?
I'm applying for grade 10.
Fourth form. All right. Look forward to seeing your application, or you get special extra stars for going to bed early and waking up even earlier.
Thanks.
I think we're going to end on that note, because you can't get much better than someone who wants to come to Hill so badly that they went to sleep and woke up again. That is just impressive. Thank you, Orit, for doing that. And thanks to everyone for joining. I'm so sorry that we still have 28 open questions and 9 hands up right now. So we'll do our best to follow up and by email on the questions that were unanswered. Again, Ms. Hennis, anything you want to say last words on the application process?
Yeah, well, I just, again, thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. And I think, even from hearing from these people that are, from all over that are interested in Hill and looking at Hill, we obviously appreciate the time, and we appreciate you still considering boarding school in such an unprecedented time. I mean, that's what's so unique about the process this year, is that hopefully you've gotten to learn about these schools in a different way. Like we said before, the application deadline is February 1st. You'll hear from us on March 10th. One thing that I do that as we continue to go through this, Hill is such a special place. And I think that you can really learn how special it is through events like this, and really getting to know our students and our teachers, our faculty members. Between March 10th and April 10th, there's a revisit day. And if that does take place online, or if there's opportunities to visit campus, please take advantage of those, especially even before making a decision, because I think it's so important for you to get a good feel about what makes that school unique, especially after you, if you are accepted to particular schools. So that's my advice post March 10th. But again, thanks for everyone for joining us tonight.
And regardless of whether it's in person or remote or both, I can promise you our Revisit Day experience will be epic this year. No question. All right, there is one last question, and it's a speed round. It's always fun to end on a high note. Ready? Elizabeth Baker asks, how do you describe the Hill culture in less than 3 words? She actually wrote that in less than 3 words. I'm not adding that. Are you ready? So 3 words or less, excuse me. I'll give you time to think. And Andrew.
People genuinely care.
People genuinely care. Chelsea.
Supports everyone's differences.
Supports everyone's differences. Maggie.
Collaborative and exciting.
Ms. Shipper.
Holding high standards.
Bella.
Friends and family.
Mr. Baum.
Intellectual and empathetic.
And I will end on authentic learning experiences. So thank you everyone for joining us. Best of luck in your application process. If you have any questions, please email admission, no S at the end there, admission@thehill.org. And Ms. Hennis and her colleagues will be sure to get back to you, and we'll do our best to answer the unanswered questions from tonight. Thank you, Happy New Year, and we'll look forward to meeting all of you soon. Take care.